In Silicon Valley, failure is practically a business model. A product misses the mark, a market dries up, or a startup simply runs out of cash trying to solve a hard technical problem. That is the standard risk of innovation. But Theranos achieved something remarkably different. The company raised billions, secured magazine covers, and dominated the healthcare narrative, while the fundamental science it relied on was already breaking underneath it. Most companies collapse because they are not good enough or fast enough. Theranos survived longer by weaponizing belief to outrun its own physical limitations. For decades, patients experienced testing as a ritual of pure inconvenience. Appointments, waiting rooms, intimidating needles, and delayed results. The process was designed around institutional efficiency rather than human comfort. Theranos offered an elegant alternative. Instead of drawing large vials from a vein, they promised a tiny drop of blood taken via a nearly painless finger prick, run through a proprietary machine for faster, cheaper results. That idea hit an intense emotional nerve. It removed the fear of needles and the anxiety of waiting. Making routine medicine less humiliating and less painful gives patients dignity and a feeling of control over their own health. It also perfectly matched the era's obsession with software. Investors had watched apps make transportation and hospitality feel invisible and effortless. They were intoxicated by the idea that a clunky physical healthcare system could be smoothed out the exact same way. People wanted to back a moral improvement. They bought into the relief of a modernized, humane future. There is a severe mismatch between building apps and building medical devices. In software, you can ship a flawed beta product, watch how it crashes, and patch the code later. Nature demands total precision from day one. Behind the scenes, the company's proprietary machine could not consistently produce reliable results. Early optimism hit a wall of technical compromise, succumbing to the unforgiving rules of chemistry and calibration. The stakes were life and death. This was real blood. The flawed data coming out of those labs dictated actual medical decisions for real patients. A sleek design and a confident founder can secure funding, but no amount of visionary branding can force biological science to cooperate before the evidence is ready. As the science stalled, leadership responded by building an intense culture of compartmentalization. Teams operated in total secrecy. Information was strictly siloed, ensuring very few employees were allowed to see the full extent of the failing technology. To offset the lack of scientific proof, the company manufactured conviction at scale. They assembled a network of elite names, bringing on high-profile investors and powerful directors who gave the operation an immediate veneer of unquestioned credibility. That boardroom armor had a distinct psychological effect. When a company is backed by former statesmen and famous billionaires, doubt becomes socially expensive. The first person to ask a basic technical question risks looking completely behind the curve. Theranos ceased operating as a standard technology startup. It evolved into an entrenched belief system where skepticism was treated as a hostile attack on progress. To keep the operation running, the company secretly relied on conventional lab equipment and complex physical workarounds to test the blood, bypassing their own proprietary machines almost entirely. Look at this financial dashboard. This chart represents the explosive growth the company was projecting to the public. As their internal operations grew messier, their paper valuations soared into the billions of dollars. That massive gap between the public narrative and the hidden reality created suffocating pressure. Inside the building, managers and engineers were forced to defend impossible timelines simply to protect the founder's pristine story. Once an organization is worth billions based purely on an illusion, admitting a mistake is no longer an option. Telling the truth becomes a lethal threat to the company's existence. The unraveling began with questions about why peer-reviewed data was non-existent and why the company aggressively avoided traditional FDA oversight, specifically framing their technology as a laboratory-developed test. Then came the turning point. Investigative journalists, federal regulators, and legal entities finally began directly comparing the company's polished claims against actual medical records. Once the institutional fog cleared, trust vanished. Partnerships dissolved, capital dried up, and severe legal consequences arrived for the leadership team. A powerful corporate myth can survive isolated whispers and quiet doubts for years, but it shatters the moment skepticism becomes organized and demands physical evidence. An honest tech failure follows a predictable arc. You build a product, science beats you, you hit a wall, and close the doors. Theranos diverged. Instead of admitting failure, they projected public certainty on the surface, while internal reality became fragmented. The true scandal was not that their hardware struggled. Building new medical technology is genuinely difficult. The issue was that leadership actively sold a finished, reliable reality that they internally knew did not exist. They were not a company that was simply wrong. They asked the world to place its trust in a fabricated reality. The collapse of Theranos left behind a wreckage of institutional failures. The regulators who were bycast and the boards of directors who failed to ask for raw data were the primary guards who left the gate open to a dangerous shortcut. Perhaps the most uncomfortable truth of this collapse is who bought in. The people most easily fooled were not the naive or the uninformed. They were highly educated, extremely powerful, and deeply connected elites. In those rarefied rooms, a compelling narrative and perfect aesthetics can cast a powerful spell. When enough powerful people agree that a company is destined for greatness, that consensus can easily masquerade as empirical proof. We operate in an economy deeply obsessed with the future, and in that rush for the next miracle, a perfectly branded, beautiful story is often the most dangerous product of all.